Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome to Books That Make You. I'm your host, Desiree Duffy, and we're talking about books that make you mix ancient artifacts and cultures and, of course, aliens. Our return guest today is back to talk about his latest book in his series, KV66, The Lazarus Project. KG Ma is with us again. Now, you may recall him being a guest last year. A lot has happened since then, both in his literary and the real world. The land of the Pharaohs, ancient Egypt, ancient mysteries surrounding them, and tombs and aliens, and all of that is something that intrigues us so much, or at least it intrigues me. And this is a great setting for a series and that is exactly what KG Ma has done. Now, KG is a businessman who partnered with the government of Dubai in an insurance brokerage venture. And then he sold that business, took an advisory role, and started putting his KV66 stories onto the electronic page, so to speak. He has ties to Egypt, stemming from his extensive travels to the country, and his wife is Egyptian. KG, thank you again for joining us and returning to the show.
Thank you very much, and feel free to call me Ken. The KG's my initials, so yeah, absolutely great to be back, Desiree. Really pleased, and looking forward to having this chat.
My pleasure. And I can call you Ken. I tend to like to call authors by their author name because I want people to remember that if they Google you or they look you up, I want them to know, you got to look for KG. But Ken it is.
Yeah.
We'll go with Ken. Okay. So a lot has happened since the last time you were on the show. And it was such a pleasure talking to you last time because we dug into ancient history and your travels and your story and, of course, your books. And I want to talk about you personally and some of the things that have happened. But first, can you give everybody, especially people who might not have heard of your books before or read your books, somebody new to your series, set the stage, if you could, for your book series.
Okay, I mean, I would define this a bit like a Indiana Jones type story. I mean, it starts with the discovery in book one of a piece of papyrus that leads to the discovery of the tomb number, which is KV66, and hence the trilogy, the three books have been labeled KV66 because it all relates to that original discovery. And during the course of the story, the protagonist, there's a bit of a love story there. There's a number of criminals chasing after them, and within the confines of this tomb, there is a small escape pod, which is a type of spacecraft that had landed, thousands of years ago, and within that pod, there is still an alien being who has survived through a process of stasis. The principal characters managed to sort of free this character, and within book two, there's the story goes on beyond. There's chases through a variety of places in Egypt, including the Siwa Oasis to Al Alamein, and then the story ends in back in the United Kingdom. Again, it's all related to a chase, evildoers after the heroes, and then we reached a point where I said, well, we've got to finish this story. And the alien being, who's female, was accidentally shot at the end of the second book, and while she was in hospital, they discovered a sort of protein that that sort of had healing capabilities, and that's in a way why I named the third book The Lazarus Project, because it had that feeling of bringing back to life, and so that I don't want to give too much away, but ultimately, it sort of leads to a point where the protagonist sort of they lose track of her. Basically, she's been whizzed away to some underground laboratory, which is run by the military and the military intelligence in the UK. So much of the book is written. The last one is written in the UK, and there's very little back in Egypt. We even have a character that's come out of Area 51. So there's an American military officer that's sort of sent over from there to assist the British in trying to establish what it is that has these healing properties. She ends up fleeing, she has a sort of an affair with this lady, this military officer. They go off together back to Area 51. She helps them with technology and works out how to recreate this protein. And then at the end, they actually end up leaving, sort of repairing the escape pod and going back looking for her home. So it's sort of it comes to an end. But that's right. a very very rough, raw, sort of briefing.
A good synopsis, yes, an excellent synopsis. So let's talk about. I mean, we obviously got elements of adventure. You said it's reminds you
quite a lot, because throughout this story there are a whole team of Egyptian and British criminals who are after them to basically steal some of the artifacts that were within the tomb, and sort of fence those to buyers. So there's that chase throughout the whole 3 books.
Yeah, it's a real page turner in that respect.
I mean, the way she is shot. It was an assassin who was trying to kill the main character, and he actually missed his shot and accidentally shot her. But that's what led to this, the sort of her being taken away and put away into some confined laboratory.
And when you're writing this book, the series, I should say, you've gone to a lot of these places and you've done the research. Can you talk about your authentic experiences in researching the book series?
Well, believe it or not, when I started my first career, I started my career as a chemist. I was actually working in a laboratory for 2 or 3 years. I was living in Cambridge at the time, so I did start off a science career, and I actually was thinking at one time, maybe I should work for the government in some form of laboratory. So I've always had a passion for that. It's not something where you can, in my opinion, it's very difficult to make a living from it. unless you're really good, But no, I've had plenty of experience with biology and chemistry in the past. So I like that idea of bringing in the protein that has some form of capability to heal and prolong life. I mean, the idea of it was really, when you're going into, you think if freezing someone's body into a stasis, there's got to be some form of way of some form of chemistry to protect the cells whilst they are in a frozen state. Because I think everyone's been, a lot of people have said, can we freeze and then go, come back to life later on? It's been a guessing game for many people, and of course you see it in movies too.
Yeah, and there are plenty of people who are trying. There is an entire cryonic
I'm sure there
movement, and there are people right now who have their entire bodies, and in some cases they just do the head. They've decided that as long as they can bring the brain back, they'll be okay. But you touched on it. The freezing process, it destroys the cells. That's the big hurdle to get over, is making sure that you can revive those cells many years or centuries later and have them be intact. So the idea that there's a protein, you're bringing in the chemistry, that's really tantalizing. And it brings in that layer of authenticity, which I love. I got to tell you too, a few years back, I went on this really cool trip, this bus trip, believe it or not. And one of the places that we went was on the road to Area 51. We got as close as you could get to Area 51 before they came out and told you couldn't go any further.
Yeah, it must be really interesting out there.
It is. Yeah. It is. And so a lot of what you're doing too is, this is set, the KV-66, that's set in a tomb, in a crypt. Can you talk a little bit about this crypt and, some of the artifacts and the things that might have inspired your fictional work?
Yeah, that really goes back to, I think, the discovery of Tutankhamun by Howard Carter in, I think, 1922 or something. It was quite some time ago, maybe 1920. That has been, to date, really the only intact tomb that's had pretty well everything left as it was from the day that it was put there. All these other tombs have been raided and pilfered by, tomb robbers. So there's very little left. And the sort of lesser tombs, you never see as much as what was discovered by Howard Carter. So I think with this this tomb KV-66, what we wanted to do was make it. I made it quite large, because it was also a very cavernous area, because they had actually concealed the spaceship in an area within that tomb. So it had to be large. And there were also two sarcophagi there, which is unusual, because in book one, the pharaoh was killed by the high priest, who was jealous because of the he also had an affair with or he married the alien. She was a beautiful girl, I can tell you. That's if ever they make a movie of this, it will have to be someone quite stunning. In order to retain power, that priest basically killed the pharaoh, and he, in fact, whilst she was giving birth to a child, and he took over as the caretaker ruler, and he put the body of the girl back into stasis. So he had, he figured out how the machine had worked, because they had uncovered her when it crashed into the mountainside. So that's when she was buried, and they decided to fake her death by killing another girl and mummifying that and putting the pharaoh and his wife together, so no one ever knew that there was an alien or whatever, because she was put in the spacecraft back in her pod, and the pharaoh and his, the
yeah,
doppelganger or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They were sealed up, and of course everything would have been put into the tomb, that they would have needed for the afterlife, as was with Tutankhamun. So
Right.
So that when it was discovered, everything was intact, everything was there.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference was that the spacecraft had been sealed in another room, and that was kept sealed until our book 3.
Right. And that leads you to this. I love the fact that you're weaving in some of the real true ways. I mean, we can't say that this was actually true, but we know that the ancient Egyptians were filled with all sorts of different subterfugic battles, and there was all of these different
I think one of the other interesting things that, if you ever go to the temple of in Luxor, or the temple of Karnak, there's a fascinating wall with carving, the hieroglyphics, but also they had done some drawings of surgical instruments and things like that, which are quite advanced. These sort of things wouldn't have been seen probably in Europe until the 19th century or 18th century. But this is thousands of years ago, and you're seeing very sophisticated surgical instruments and medical sort of positions and things. And I tried to use the alien, bringing that sort of technology to the Egyptians at that time. So it sort of married in with what you see on the wall today.
Yeah, it's the whole ancient aliens type of coming and bestowing to the ancient Egyptians. I mean, you hear this with cultures all over the world. There's Göbekli Tepe as well, and Turkey. And there are those folks who say, oh, that has to be some kind of ancient technology. And then there's the other front, obviously, that are saying, let's give credit to these ancient cultures for being able to develop this technology.
I don't think I would be very popular with the antiquities department with my well, let's call it fiction.
Well, it is fiction, and that's what makes it fun. So on that vein, let's talk a little bit about your story as an author, because the last time we spoke, it was so much fun talking about your books. And I know in that process, in that meantime, you yourself have gone through, and I'm glad to say now you're here with us and you're smiling and everything seems to be on an uptick, but you went through a little bit of a downturn with your health, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. I in fact, it was my daughter who, I had this mole on my back, which she said, "Oh, you need to get that checked." And of course, I went to the dermatologist, and they said, "Oh, God, this doesn't look good." And the next thing I know, I've got a sort of stage 3B melanoma, which had then, by that time, had traveled a bit, and this was the beginning of quite a extensive bit of treatment, because first of all you have to have the surgery to remove it, and then you have to go through all the PET scans to verify whether it had been removed completely, and then obviously they said, oh well, we need to put you on immunotherapy. So that is a sort of infusion every 3 weeks for 52 weeks, for a whole year of going to have these infusions. And, it makes you wonder sometimes, because you talk about drug companies, these are expensive drugs, you wonder that it's out of reach of certain people unless you have adequate insurance. Thank goodness I'm in the insurance business, and I had decent
And you had
insurance
that.
because that would have been, unaffordable, I think, for most people. But anyway, I touch wood. I had the infusions, and then they did say, "Oh well, we need to do radiotherapy on top of that." So they wanted to send me off for a whole course of radiotherapy, and I thought, well, where are they going to point it? Because it's quite difficult. I'd had all my axilla lymph nodes removed, and you think, well, that's a huge area. So if you've got to point X-rays or whatever, the radiotherapy to blast that area, it's a big area. And I thought, that doesn't sound, that it would be a good thing. So I did check with. We have a hospital in the UK, which is the Royal Marsden Hospital, which is a well-known cancer hospital, probably the best in the UK, I think. And I spoke to. She's one of the world's experts on melanoma, and she put me in touch with her radiologist, and he had just done a paper on this very subject, and he basically said to me, Ken, it won't make any difference at all, but it could cause, it could actually make your life a lot more uncomfortable. So he didn't recommend it. So I didn't do it. And, touch wood, that's been a wise decision.
Well, and it's great that you like you said, that you're able to get that incredible health care. And it is so unfortunate that so many don't. How does that give you perspective as a writer looking back and now releasing this book? Any advice or thoughts on, the importance of getting that book out there and writing?
I think my whole attitude on life has changed as a result of this, because, even when I come to the office, I'm, you got to live every day as every day. Tomorrow might never come, so you can't afford to have anything that blocks your mind or upsets you, or I'm a much more easygoing person as a result of it. And I think, I live life much, much more fluidly. I don't worry about tomorrow, because you've got to live for today. And I think, that's all sometimes easier said than done. But I think it is a good lesson for people, that, we don't need to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. You've got to live for today and make sure that you enjoy today, and don't let things stress you too much. I know it's very, very difficult for people, but it has been a good lesson for me.
Yeah,
I think
amazing.
Sometimes you try to plan and you plan your life, and particularly financially and things like that, and we worry about things too much, and that can actually have more, do more harm for you than not worrying about it, and just get on with, it's not going to be a disaster at the end of the day,
It's amazing.
So touch wood, I'm feeling much better. I put on a bit of weight, so I need to get back to the gym.
Good. I hear you. It's amazing the life lessons we learn along the way. Can you tell us, Ken, what you're working on?
My wife went through exactly the same thing.
Okay.
She had stage 4 lung cancer. And this was I think she's been maybe 6 years ago now. And she really has been the rock for me, because I learned a lot from that. And, she's in great form, so we've both been through it. Hers more serious than mine.
Right. Well, it's wow for you both to experience that and for her to be able to help you through it. That really must have been something profound. Can you tell us what you're working on next? What does the future hold for you, your writing?
Okay. Well, I have, in the 6 months ago, I was asked to join a company here in Dubai, another insurance broker, as their sort of regional managing director. It's a big company. I think we've got, like 150 odd staff, and it's a lovely business, and it's one that I have admired ever since I've come. I've been in Dubai for 40 years now, and I've always, admired this firm as a competitor, and to be given the opportunity to come and lead it was quite, an honor for me at my stage in my career, because it's been a while since I've been back in the front line of insurance broking, but I'm loving that, and great team of people. It's, as I say, it's a great business. It's an internationally recognized brand, so I'm back with the major league. so
Nice.
that is actually taking a lot of my time. I'm in my office here today. So I did start penning what I wanted to do next, and that's really, if we look at the end of this series, I think it opens up the start of a new series. What happens with the two characters, as they're heading in the space pod towards Orion, going towards where her planet was. I mean, it'll probably be more Trekky, but it does open up an opportunity to do something a little bit different from the first three.
Excellent. I love that. Just taking it into a whole new direction. We're going to head out into outer space. Can you tell everybody where they can go to find out more about you? Give us your website, where they can go to find your books.
My books are available on Amazon. I did have them available in some other online areas through certain stores, but I think the best place to go is Amazon. And anything that you want to read about me or learn about the books can be found on my website, which is just simply kv-66.com. So very simple. And that would also give you the link to a prequel that I wrote, which leads into the first book. It's a small one, but you can download that from the website, and that will give you a little bit of a taster.
KG Ma, Ken Ma, author of KV-66 series. Thank you so much for joining us on the Books That Make You show. It's been fun talking with you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and stay well. Hopefully I don't know when I'll complete the next book, but hopefully it's not going to be, many years down the line, and that we'll be able to talk about that.
We'll have you come back then. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today on the Books That Make You show as well. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I'm over there on Twitter X as well. You can subscribe, follow us. Make sure you're leaving some comments below if you're on the YouTube channel. And we're on TikTok as well. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.